There's something I want you to imagine before we start. Picture a memory you're completely certain of. Not something vague, something clear. You can picture the room. You can hear the exact words. You know how it felt. The kind of memory you'd stake something on. Now picture the person who was there telling you calmly that it never happened. Not that you got a detail wrong. Not that you're confused about the order of things. Just that it didn't happen. They say it the way someone says something obvious. Steady, patient, almost like they feel sorry for you. Now imagine that happens again a few weeks later, and then again after that. Today we're going to follow one person through exactly that experience. We're not going to rush to explain it or label it. We're just going to watch it happen the way it actually does, slowly, in the middle of a completely ordinary life. Let's start at the beginning. His name is James. He's 32. He's just moved in with a woman called Sarah. From the outside, everything about it looks like a good decision. Sarah isn't the type who makes a loud impression. She's warm, attentive, the kind of person who makes you feel like you're the most interesting person in the room. When James mentioned he'd been trying to get into running, she texted him a week later with a route near his flat. Small thing. They move into a ground floor flat in the spring. Good-sized kitchen. James sets the place up carefully, his record collection along one wall. A desk near the window for writing. It's a few framed prints he's carried for years. Things are good. They spend weekends together easily. His friends like her. When they argue, it's about small things, and it gets resolved. Nothing dramatic, and then quietly things start to shift. The first time it didn't add up. It's about 8 months in. James's friends have organized a Saturday afternoon get-together. Sarah looks at him with a puzzled expression and says he told her it was an evening thing. Starting at 7, James is certain that's wrong. But Sarah isn't annoyed. She just looks faintly concerned, so he lets it go. Maybe he did say 7. Maybe he's misremembering. The pattern begins. Over the following months, it happens again. Not often. Just often enough that James starts to notice a feeling. A plan they agreed on turns out to have been agreed differently. Comment he's sure he never made gets repeated back to him. His friend Marcus notices something has changed. James seems fine, but there's something slightly hesitant about him now. A pause before he commits. Marcus asks if everything's all right. James says Sarah has helped him see some things about himself he's been working on. Maybe he imagined IT. Almost 2 years in. James mentions a conversation where Sarah said she was open to moving cities. Sarah says she has no memory of saying that, politely, almost apologetically. Or maybe she says carefully, he imagined it. James sits with those words long after the conversation moves on. Because there's a difference between misremembering something and imagining it. The conversation that changed everything. Marcus comes over while Sarah is away. They're having a drink in the kitchen. Marcus laughs about a trip they took. Says James was on brilliant form that weekend, completely himself, funny and sharp and at ease. James goes quiet, because Sarah has told him more than once that he'd been difficult on that trip, withdrawn, a bit much to manage. James asks if he remembers James being off at all. Marcus looks genuinely confused. Says no, the opposite. Something underneath James has shifted. The quiet math, alone in the flat, James starts writing things down, not as evidence, just so he can hold on to them. Dates, feelings, a friendship that thinned out, hobby he'd let go of. A version of himself from 3 years ago that he can barely picture now. He doesn't confront her. He's not ready. But something in him has started keeping score. Once you notice the pattern, you cannot stop seeing it. That's where we'll leave James for now. It's not with an answer, just with a quiet internal moment where reality might not be the real one. What we just watched happen to James has a name. It's called gaslighting. But the word gets thrown around so loosely now that it's worth being precise about what it actually is, because the popular version is usually wrong. Gaslighting isn't lying. Lying is when someone tells you something false and hopes you believe it. Gaslighting is something else entirely. It's when someone tells you something false about your own experience, with enough calm and consistency that you start to doubt the experience itself. The target isn't the fact. The target is your trust in your own mind. There's one ingredient that has to be present for this to work. It isn't intelligence, and it isn't even malice in the cartoonish sense. It's calm. Notice that Sarah was never angry. She was never aggressive. If she had been, James would have had something solid to push back against. What he got instead was concern, gentleness, a faint, patient sadness directed at him as if he were the one with the problem. Human beings are wired to trust calm over distress. If someone is calm and you are upset, your instinct is to assume they are right. We treat composure as a proxy for accuracy. It rarely is. Composure is just composure. It's an extremely effective costume. The honest answer is that nobody catches this in real time because it's built to dissolve into the texture of ordinary life. Each individual incident was small enough to be dismissible. A misremembered time, a misunderstood comment. None of these things, taken alone, would alarm anyone. The harm isn't in any one moment. It's in the accumulation, and accumulation is invisible while it's happening. This is sometimes called the boiling frog problem. We are built to notice sudden change, but we are bad at noticing gradual change. James's friendships thinned. His hobby fell away. None of this happened through a direct demand. Sarah simply planted small doubts. The outside world is the biggest threat to a false reality. Marcus broke the whole thing open because he had no reason to lie. Fewer outside reference points means fewer chances for the false version of events to be challenged. That's why isolation is so common. When your own memory has been quietly undermined, the conclusion you reach first is not someone has been lying. It's something is wrong with me. Trusting your own mind is automatic, like breathing. When it's eroded, the gap is filled with self-doubt. It feels like going slightly mad. What actually makes someone vulnerable to this isn't weakness. It's good faith. James trusted Sarah because that's the sane starting position for love. The willingness to take another's account of reality at face value is what makes intimacy possible. This isn't a flaw. It's the cost of connection. The pattern broke through contact with something outside. Marcus said something simple and true, and it didn't fit the internal story. The more useful habit is to write things down. Keep a record of what actually happened, not as ammunition, but as an anchor. The version that exists on paper, with a date attached, is much harder to talk someone out of. It stops being invisible. Once it stops being invisible, it stops being able to do what it was doing. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.